excited to have Jeff Redondo on with us today. He is the co-founder and managing partner at Invictus Advisors. It's a binational CFO outsourcing firm whose mission is to be a strategic partner for business owners and entrepreneurs to make better financial decisions. With proper operational controls, administrative and reporting procedures, he's helped lead the organization to multiple offices throughout the US and Mexico while increasing annual budget from $25,000 to $1 million in just 4 years. So I have to tell you, a lot of your businesses can't necessarily afford a full-time CFO, but it does not mean that you can just leave that spot as a void and not have somebody who's advising you on the finances. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a financial expert. I'm great at what I'm great at, but it doesn't mean I understand all the different areas of my business finances. So we're really excited to have you on with us today. And let's just jump right into it. Sound good?
Thanks, good. Thanks so much, Amy, for inviting me.
You're welcome. Okay, so the first big question is, why are we as entrepreneurs so afraid to look at our financials? Like, I just feel like there's a lot of people out there who are trying to hide from
it. I think people do in general. You know, it's not just entrepreneurs, but it's a lot of different people. And I think it really, you know, for entrepreneurs specifically, I think it really boils down to they're afraid of what it shows. They're afraid that they realize, hey, I was making more money at my job than I am in my business.
Oh, that's
right?
painful.
And so it comes to a hardcore realization. And then you have to go back to be like, why am I an entrepreneur? Right? And those are tough questions. Those are really hard questions to answer.
Yeah, so I do think you're right. There's a lot of people that are afraid of what they see, but I will tell you, you should be more afraid of what you don't see. Because I remember launching a program once and pricing it kind of based off of an emotional, I think this is what people will pay for it. I think this is what they'll afford. And I sold it for a good 4 months before I was like, why are we cash poor right now when we have all these sales coming through? Ran the numbers, figured it out. We actually were losing money when we sold it. Every time we sold it, we were losing money. And it was like, oh, well, we're going to stop that today. And we're going to make some changes today. But gosh, it was painful to learn that lesson.
And I think that's the key. It's really understanding, you know, where you're pricing at, you know, where your company's going. It's figuring out, you know, if you have sales associates or salespeople, if they're bringing in, you know, the money that they need to bring in. And you really only know that with finances. And you really only know that if you're looking at your finances. I was talking to another colleague of mine yesterday, and she says, oh, I have a bookkeeper. And I was like, oh, that's great. Do you look at your financials? And she's like, no. This is like, well, then why do you have a bookkeeper?
Yeah.
Right? You actually have to get them and look at them and be able to decipher them. And that's what, you know, an accountant or a CFO or somebody that's on your team that really looks into the financials will help you with that.
So, I think it's part looking at it, but part of it is, I don't know that all business owners really understand the reports that they're looking at. So how do you know, when you take the business owner who they're, the other part, let's be honest too, it's not just that we're scared, we're also busy, right? Can I get some amens from that from my other business owners? We're busy trying to generate sales, trying to market, trying to take care of our clients. And so I think it's kind of a sense of overwhelm and always like, I don't have time to do that now. I don't have time to do that now. So how do we shift our mindset from we're busy and we're a little bit scared of them and we don't really understand them into we are taking financial responsibility for our company? Where do you think that shift starts?
I think it starts at the beginning. You know, a story that I talk about in my course is, as an entrepreneur, you took that leap. You took that leap that you're going to be a business owner. And as a business owner, you have responsibilities, right? It's not just sales. It's not just marketing. It's not just, you know, making sure your independent contractors are happy. It's getting into your financials. You know, so as a business owner, you have to balance every one of those pieces. And so financials is an important piece. And if you are, just like you said, you could be losing money and you not even know it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to not just have your financials, but being a business owner and being confident enough and owning your financials so that you really can make better financial decisions.
So let's give some tips, because I know one of the things that you talk a lot about is kind of taking the emotions out of the numbers and removing the fear from it. So, and by the way, you guys, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Have any of you, we won't even make you say right now, but have you in the past, or have you known somebody who is a little bit afraid of their financials and maybe struggling to get in there? So my question for you is, for the business owners that are in that spot, how do you have any tips or strategies how they can start to move the emotion out of the finances?
I think one of the ways is taking the worst case scenario and dealing with it.
Yeah.
Right. So that is, you know, for entrepreneurs and business owners, they like the worst case scenario for them is I have to go back to a job.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And is that the worst case scenario? No. You know, you could actually go back to a job and make more money than you may be making in your business right now, right? Or the worst case scenario would be like, you know, in people's mind, they may be homeless, right? That may be the worst
Right.
case scenario. But I bet for most people, they have someplace that they can go,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have family, they have friends, they can couch surf, you know, there's different things that they can do. So it's about resourcing and trying to figure out, you know, that's the biggest tip for so many people, because it's about fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if I don't have money, what am I going to do?
Well, and you know
Right?
what's so interesting about this is so many people are afraid of that worst case scenario, but they won't even let themselves think of it. Like they just keep it at the edge of their mind. And so when you go to that, you know, it's funny because when I get into that space where I'm not addressing the fear, I'm not looking at it, it's so ridiculous in my mind. It's like, we're going to lose everything. We're going, you know, I'm going to end up alone. You know, my children will be starving. And then I actually listen to what that fear is. And it's like, no, it would look like we would go get jobs. I'm a really competent person. I would get a good paying job. And my children would not starve because I would never let that happen, you know?
You could go to food banks. Like there's total,
Right.
you know, there's endless possibilities. But when you get sucked into this, like, oh my God, I'm not going to make another dime,
Uh-huh.
right? You don't see all the possible resources out there. And that's why
Yeah.
it's so important for people to understand that if you start getting sucked into that, there has to be ways that you can get out of it. And another way is to really connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with your family, connect with your friends, connect with colleagues. And you don't have to go into your complete financial situation, but it's about, changing your self-awareness and changing your emotional state. And who knows, if you start, talking to colleagues, they might say to you, hey, you know what? I had this friend that may be interested in your program. Or I have this friend that has a job opportunity. Or there's a second revenue source that here's an additional revenue source that you may be able to look at, right? So there's a wide open possibilities, and it's a matter of really figuring out what that looks like
Mm-hmm.
and really stopping yourself from going down this hole of despair, as they call it.
Well, and I do think that there are a lot of business owners that have been hit hard this year. Now, I will say I do not believe that all business is falling apart, because my business has been great. A lot of my clients has been great, but I don't want to minimize the fact that there are a lot of business owners that have legit been hit hard, and industries that have just really taken a big swing, a big dip this year. So for businesses who do need to dig out of a hole, do you have any advice for them?
I think it goes back to like trying to figure out what your resources are, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you don't have an accountant or a bookkeeper, I would say that's your first step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding someone that can really dive deep into your numbers, right, and really help you figure out a plan to get out of debt, or to restructure your business, or to, it's so funny because there's so many businesses right now, large corporations, that are filing for bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, bankruptcy, they're going to disappear. No, bankruptcy is not, they're going to disappear, right? All that is that's taking all their debt and restructuring it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's part of that. But when you look at it from that perspective, right, that's actually a good thing, because
Right.
this company's going to stay around for a long while longer, right? So it's your positioning and what you think about financials really what's going to help your business grow.
Yeah. And I will just say one of the reasons why, Jeff, we wanted to have you on here is because I've been the entrepreneur who thinks that I can sell my way out of any problem. And I've also been the entrepreneur who realizes that's not accurate. You have to have a financial strategy, and then you've got to get out there and hustle with sales and marketing. Otherwise, you can find yourself in some pretty tricky situations. So we really appreciate you coming on today. For our listeners, what's the best way that they can go and get connected with you and learn more about your services if they're listening and realizing they're needing some CFO help or mindset around money and business help?
Sure, sure. So they can actually visit our website at invictus-advisors.com/emotions. And what that will do is that will sit down, you'll have a conversation with me, right? And there's conversations, completely free. And, we talk about my financial emotional mastery program, but it's more for a lot of people, it's about talking to someone about where they are financially, right?
Yeah.
And the struggles that they're going through, and maybe some new different ways of looking at things. So that review is just really to help you understand where you are around your finances and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, it's Invictus dash with a little hyphen advisors.com/emotions. So you can go there and schedule a call with me.
Awesome. And we're putting that into the chat here. So thank you, Jeff, so much for being on with us. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. And just that sense that, like, you're not alone, right? Like, if any of our
Right.
business owners, this is an area that right now they're a little afraid when they think about those financials. You are not alone. There is help, there is support. And we mentioned it earlier in the day. As an entrepreneur, you just really should not do this journey alone. Find the right people to be on your support team. And if that's
Right.
Jeff, I encourage you to go over and check it out. Thanks so much for being on with us.
Thank you so much, Amy.